The old man lay motionless on the weathered wooden bench beneath the shade of a large maple tree, his expensive suit hidden beneath a worn-out coat that made him look like just another forgotten soul. Around him, hundreds of people hurried through the city park without slowing down. Some glanced at him for a second before looking away. Others stepped around him as though he didn't exist. By noon, the man had counted more than 200 strangers who had ignored him completely. He had built an empire worth billions. Yet in that moment, he wondered whether wealth had blinded him from seeing what people were truly like. Before this incredible story begins, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes kindness can change lives, and subscribe to Heartwarming Tales if you believe that even the smallest act of compassion can create the biggest miracle. The man's name was Alaric Vaughn, one of the country's most respected business leaders. After years of hearing speeches about generosity, honesty, and humanity, he wanted to discover whether genuine kindness still existed when there was nothing to gain. He decided to spend one day pretending to be homeless, lying still, as though asleep, carrying nothing but a small backpack and an old blanket. Hidden cameras placed far away by his security team quietly documented everything while remaining invisible to the public. The morning was filled with disappointment. Office workers rushed past while staring at their phones. Joggers avoided the bench without making eye contact. A family even warned their children not to get too close, assuming the old man was dangerous. Every passing hour made Alaric's heart heavier. He had donated millions to charities throughout his life, yet he realized that money could never force people to care. Just as the afternoon sun began to soften, a small figure appeared from the opposite side of the park. The boy couldn't have been older than 12. His clothes were faded, his shoes were cracked, and his backpack looked as though it had survived years of use. His name was Rowan Mercer, and every weekday after school, he collected recyclable bottles before walking several miles home to help support his grandmother, who raised him after his parents passed away. Rowan noticed the old man immediately. He stopped. He looked around. Everyone else continued walking. Instead of following them, Rowan quietly approached the bench. He carefully placed his worn backpack on the ground and studied the stranger's face. The old man's breathing seemed shallow. Rowan gently placed his hand near the man's shoulder, not to wake him, but simply to make sure he was still alive. Finding no response, Rowan removed his own water bottle, the only one he had left for the long walk home, and placed it beside the sleeping man. He then reached into his backpack and pulled out a neatly wrapped sandwich. It was the lunch he had saved, because he planned to eat it after collecting enough bottles to earn a few extra dollars. Without hesitation, Rowan laid the sandwich beside the bottle. He smiled softly before sitting on the grass nearby. Minutes passed. Instead of leaving, Rowan remained there, quietly watching over a complete stranger. Whenever someone walked too close, Rowan gently guided them around the bench so they wouldn't accidentally disturb the old man. He never asked for recognition. He never looked around to see if anyone noticed. His kindness existed, even when nobody appeared to be watching. As the afternoon turned warmer, clouds slowly gathered above the park. A cool breeze swept across the trees before the first drops of rain began to fall. People hurried toward nearby shelters, laughing as they escaped the weather. Rowan looked at the sky, then at the sleeping stranger. Without thinking twice, he removed the only rain jacket he owned. It wasn't expensive. In fact, it had several stitched patches where his grandmother had repaired torn fabric, again and again. Yet Rowan carefully covered the old man with it, before standing in the rain himself. Hidden behind a nearby maintenance building, Alaric's security team watched in complete silence. Several members wiped tears from their eyes. They had seen hundreds ignore the old man throughout the day, but one poor child had offered everything he possessed without expecting anything in return. Alaric felt his eyes burning beneath his closed eyelids. For the first time in decades, he struggled not to cry. The rain grew heavier. Rowan shivered, but refused to leave. Finally, he gently whispered that he hoped the old man would stay warm and promised that tomorrow he would bring another sandwich if he happened to pass by again. That sentence broke something deep inside Alaric's heart. He slowly opened his eyes. Rowan stepped back in surprise. Alaric sat upright, holding the patched rain jacket in trembling hands. Tears rolled freely down his face. He looked at the sandwich, the bottle of water, and the boy standing before him, soaked from head to toe. The billionaire realized that the richest person in the park had not been himself. It had been the child who owned almost nothing. After introducing himself, Alaric learned about Rowan's life. Every evening, the boy cared for his elderly grandmother, completed his homework under an old lamp, and dreamed of becoming an engineer one day. Yet despite having so little, Rowan believed every person deserved compassion, because as his grandmother often reminded him, kindness was the one gift that became larger every time it was shared. Alaric invited Rowan and his grandmother to visit his office a few days later. At first they believed it was a misunderstanding, but when they arrived, they discovered that the old man from the park truly was one of the wealthiest people in the nation. Alaric kept his promise. He arranged the best medical care for Rowan's grandmother, paid every educational expense the boy would ever need, and established a scholarship foundation in Rowan's name for children who quietly helped others despite living in poverty themselves. The foundation eventually supported thousands of families across the country. Years later, whenever journalists asked Alaric why he created the program, he never spoke about profits, investments, or success. He simply told them that one rainy afternoon, a hungry child had taught a billionaire what true wealth looked like. Money could build skyscrapers. Power could influence nations. But only kindness could transform a human heart forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share it with someone who needs a little hope today. And subscribe to Heartwarming Tales for more unforgettable stories that remind us the world still has good people in it. Before you go, please comment. Kindness is the greatest wealth. We'd love to see how many people still believe compassion can change the world. That night, Alaric returned to his mansion, surrounded by luxury he had once considered the measure of success. Yet none of the marble floors, priceless artwork, or expensive cars mattered anymore. As he looked at the patched rain jacket, folded carefully on his desk, he cried for hours, not out of sadness, but because one courageous little boy had reminded him that the greatest fortunes are never counted in dollars. They are measured in the hearts we choose to touch, especially when no one else is watching.